Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's pre-market prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your co-host Joel Alconin, along with Brianna Valesky, and I have Sara Olson on the line. She's a research analyst at Lux Research. How you doing today, Sara?
Good morning, Joel. I'm doing great. Yourself?
Good, good. Thanks for coming on. So, give us a little bit of your education and your market background and how you ended up working in this sector for Lux Research.
Oh, sure. Well, you could say I'm a farmer at heart, really, which is what led me to what I do now. By way of educational background, I have a PhD in biochemistry and crop genetics from Texas A&M University. So I've been very crop focused, and I had the opportunity to come on board at Lux Research and lead up their department that covers agricultural innovations from emerging technologies and startups. And I couldn't resist. I jumped at the chance.
Okay, let's talk about a stock that when it IPO'd back in October of 2013, there was a lot of high expectations for Marrone Bio Innovations, and it's fallen on hard times here. Can you discuss the rise and fall of this issue, and does it have any chance to recover?
That's a great question, and really gets at the heartstrings of every entrepreneur in ag, I think. So, Marrone Bio Innovations was founded back in 2006 by Pam Marrone. Named it for herself, and she's really been quite a fixture in the biological crop protection world for some time. So as you mentioned, a year and a half ago or so, they IPO'd. They raised, I think, $56 million it was with their IPO. All signs pointed to good. Pam went on and raised another $70 million or so in the 6 months after, and then trouble struck. The COO left very suddenly, Hector Absi, citing personal issues. They had a really awful earnings call, Q2 of 2014, and it appears as though the wheels had really come off, and Marrone, the company, found themselves facing lawsuits from all the investors who'd lost money. I mean, the stock tanked. It went from almost $20 down to, I think, $1.99 is where it bottomed out. So tenfold decrease is really enough to make people sit up and take notice. And you're absolutely right to ask whether there's any chance to recover. People have been sort of beating that drum, saying there's not a chance, but I actually think there's more to it than that. I think we chalk up 2014 as sort of a lost year. Call it growing pains, a learning experience, whatever you want to call it. They really saw slower sales than they expected. Pam cited the drought in California as one of the reasons, whatever the reason being. Company did not do as well as they thought they would in 2014.
Who else is in the?
But I'm going to say,
Who else
sorry,
is
go
in the
ahead.
biopesticide sector? And have those companies experienced the same pain as Marrone Bio?
No, they haven't, and that's what gives me hope for the sector. So there's a number of small companies, but really what I think is interesting is what the bigger players are doing. So Syngenta, we all know of Syngenta. They acquired Pasturia a couple years ago, and that was a startup in the biopesticide space. Bayer Crop Science also acquired AgroQuest, which coincidentally is another small company that Pam Marrone was a part of starting. But those two are both doing quite well, and they've launched new products, and they're having some success. If you look at Bayer Crop Science, their stock's been doing quite well for the last quarter or so.
You have a symbol on
Uh,
that?
Bayer Crop Science, no, doesn't come to mind.
Yeah, me either. Okay, all right. So, another thing that kind of fits into the biopesticides market is citrus greening and the effect on the frozen OJ futures markets. Can we go into that a little bit?
Yes, sure. Citrus greening is sort of the bane of the citrus farmer's existence right now. So this is this disease, Huanglongbing or HLB disease. It's transmitted by an insect. It's actually caused by a bacterium. It's nearly impossible to cure right now. I mean, the USDA has even resorted to using what they call detector dogs, which are dogs that can actually sniff out the insects in the orchards. So it's calamity from the farmer's perspective. But it's been actually very interesting. The frozen orange juice futures were actually trending down. And speculation, I think, and I tend to believe, was that consumption is down. Juice has become sort of less in vogue, less chic. It's sugary and it's not so healthy and all that. And so those futures were really trending downward. But then with the sort of the threat and a little bit of panic coming from HLB, I think we've actually seen a bit of a bounce. And really, we're looking at the fact that they're up quite a bit. If you look 2 years ago, they're up quite a bit right now. So I think as awful as it's going to be for the producers, for the OJ futures, I think you're going to see HLB citrus greening actually cause those prices to come up.
Okay, and along the lines of discussing the futures markets, genome editing for the new generation GMO, is that the reason for the declines you've had in grain future prices? And explain new generation GMOs for our listeners.
Sure, sure. So the new generation of genetic modification we call genome editing, and it's really kind of exciting. It's literally just editing the genetic code of a plant. You can think of it kind of like liposuction at a DNA level. There's no non-native or non-natural genes. You're just tweaking Mother Nature in a way. And so the regulatory process is really more streamlined. It's a win-win for farmers and consumers, I think, from a technology perspective. In terms of the declining grain prices, I think we're seeing an oversupply. There's sort of a vicious cycle where farmers are adopting new technologies like genome editing in crops, and they're doing that to try to chase higher and higher yields. And in doing so, you flood the market, prices drop, and farmers scramble and try to chase even higher yields, and the cycle repeats and repeats. We're looking at record-breaking high corn harvest for the U.S. for 2014, and no sign of slowing down there. So I think really the grain futures, we're talking about oversupply is what it comes down to.
Okay, and let's just talk about a few stocks in this sector. I mean, you have Potash, Mosaic, Agrium, and I'm just looking at the charts here. It seems like Agrium has performed a little bit better than the other two. Let's start with Potash here, and your short and long-term prospects for POT.
Sure. So the three you mentioned, they're all really in the crop nutrition business. It's very lucrative. It goes back to the farmers chasing the higher yields. Sort of the more food you give the crop, the bigger they're going to grow. For potash, I think part of the reason they're not doing as well maybe as Mosaic or even as Agrium has to do with the prices for potash in the last year. So prices were down. So even though they actually did a ton of volume, when you're at that lower price, it's going to mean lower revenue, and people are going to be a little more cagey.
Okay, and Mosaic, I see it just struggling here. Going back to the potash, just struggling here at the $37 level for quite some time. And Mosaic, that's had a nice little rally here in 2015. You're looking for that to continue.
I am. There you're seeing a real high demand for phosphate, and I don't see that slowing down, and I don't see the price decrease the same that we saw happening with potash in 2014. So I do think that trend will continue.
Okay, and finally, Agrium, AGU, maybe that's been the best performer of the three, perhaps.
I think it has, and I think the reason there is actually diversification. Agrium's got this great business strategy that I think is really at the core of its greater success in that it sells in bulk, but it also sells as a retailer, and so it's got access to both markets, and it's a little bit of a hedged bet, really. Sometimes you find the bulk market doing better. Sometimes it's actually the retail market that can save you, and so I think for Agrium, it's just being able to play both sides that's really having a positive impact.
Okay, we've been on the line with Sara Olson of Lux Research. She is touching on some topics here in the biopesticide market, fertilizer market. We don't talk about a whole lot. Its effect on the grains and futures markets. Thanks a lot, Sarah, for the education, and we hope to have you on again soon.
Thanks, Joel. Take care.
Okay.